Senator Rice.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr O'Sullivan. Yes, so the status
Which
of
one?
That's right. Not you, Chair. Okay, the status of the business case.
Thank you, Senator. My name is Graham Millett and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of WSACO. The business case was originally put together by the Commonwealth to look at the aviation demand in the Sydney Basin, and that business case found that Sydney Kingsford Smith would become severely constrained in a relatively short period of time, probably by approximately 2030. When it looked at the ongoing demand for airspace in New South Wales by carriers, it was thus determined that there was a requirement for a second Sydney airport. As a result of that, there was a technical specification put together for that airport. We've been charged with delivering an airport by the end of 2026, which will have initially a 3,700 metre runway and a terminal that will accommodate up to 10 million passengers per year. In the first instance, when the airport opens, it's expected that we will have between 3 and possibly 4 million passengers per year, but it will grow over time to that 10 million. After that period of time, the airport has been designed and will continue to be designed in a modular format, so that over time it will increase to a maximum number of 82 million passengers per year, and there will in fact be a second runway installed, another 3,700 metre runway parallel to the first runway in approximately 2041, 2042, based upon current forecasts.
Okay, but is there a business case for the Western Sydney Airport?
Yes, there is, Senator. Yes. There is a business case, in fact.
Senator, the business case is published on our website. We can send you a link. It was completed in late 2016.
Okay. The Sydney Airport Corporation didn't take up the Badgerys Creek Airport project last year because it said that it didn't have a business case and would be years before a return on investment was realised, if at all. So how do you respond to that reluctance from them compared with your excitement about the project?
Senator, I wasn't party to those discussions with Sydney Airport, so I might refer your question to the department.
Senator Greg Whalen, General Manager for the Financial, Commercial and Operations side of the Western Sydney unit. As part of the right of first refusal process, the notice of intention was provided to Sydney Airport in December 2016, and they advised in May 2017 that they were unwilling to accept that offer.
Right. So when was the business case for the airport produced? Did you say it's on your website?
Yeah, the business case for the airport was produced by the department as one of the key steps in leading up to the government's decision to release the offer to Sydney Airport. So it was completed prior to that offer being made to Sydney Airport.
So why did they say that it didn't have a business case?
It wasn't. The terminology they used was more to do with, and I can't speak on their behalf, but the bottom line was in terms of the nature of investments that they were interested in, it didn't actually match. It wasn't a good fit for the types of investments they were making and their shareholders were interested in. So the airport, at the end of the day, is a long-term investment, and that would have factored into their decision, I'm sure, at the end of the day.
So when is it expected? So it's going to be a longer-term investment. So the Sydney Airport wanted a quicker return. Is that, in summary, what the difference is?
Senator, it wouldn't be appropriate for us to start speaking on behalf of Sydney Airport's considerations. The business case, if you like, the benefits versus costs, went through Infrastructure Australia. As Mr Whalen said, is published on our website. But it wouldn't be appropriate for us to speculate on why they should or shouldn't have taken up that decision. That's
okay,
really a matter
but in
them.
summary, it sounds like from what you just said that they wanted a quicker return on investment, and this is a longer term investment.
The same
I'm just summarising.
Same pony, different saddle. The witnesses indicated they can't respond to that. So just rephrase your question if you want to try and attempt it from another angle.
I'll ask the question, in what year is it expected that there will be a return on investment for the Western Sydney Airport?
Senator, we can get that information for you and we can take that on notice. I don't have that in front of me right at the moment.
Right.
It is a number of years off. It's 20, 25 years at least after the airport begins operation, before it actually starts to return the... In more technical terms, it's when it gets into the net present value positive space, it'll be 20, 25 years after the airport begins operations.
Okay, so we're looking at post 2050 then. If it's not starting until, it's not opening until 2026, did you just say?
That's correct, Senator.
So we're looking at about 2050 before there'd be a return on investment.
So if you want the exact date, I'll need to take that one on notice.
So the government's investment of the $5.3 billion, we won't see any return on that until that time, effectively.
Senator, the government's return on its investment will come down to the government's decisions in the future as to whether it wants to continue to hold on to the airport or divest it, and that's a matter for government.
Okay. How is, in terms of the business case, how is you're accommodating the potential of cost overruns, as is the case, from almost all large infrastructure projects that we've seen in Australia in recent times? There have been substantial cost overruns. How are you accounting for that?
So, Senator, within the budget there is a contingency amount which is based upon industry norms. To be frank, until we find the results of the market tenders which come in after the first major package is let, we won't really know how the market's responding to our tender. However, we believe that the contingencies that have been provided within the budget are sufficient to accommodate escalations and to accommodate any unknowns that may arise.
So how much are those contingencies?
I take that question on notice, Senator, if I may.
Okay, thank you. And are you taking into account the potential to have to pay compensation for aircraft noise? When the third runway at Sydney Airport commenced operations, there was millions of dollars of compensation for aircraft noise that had to be paid to affected residents because the EIS failed to accurately state the impact of aircraft noise.
Senator, the airspace and the flight corridors have not been determined at this stage, so I'm unable to answer your question.
If you like, Senator, we could provide you some information on that now. Would that be helpful?
Yes.
So Garth Taylor, General Manager, Communications, Environment and Legal with the Western Sydney unit in the department. There has been a costing done for the noise amelioration package that would be required for this airport, and that costing has been built into the business case and the business plan.
Right. And can you tell us what that costing is?
There is an amount for Commonwealth preparatory activities. That's a certain term that we use within the project CPAs. That amount has been built into the equity.
How much?
The total amount is $444.9 million. That is not wholly for noise amelioration, but the total amount is $444.9 million.
$500 million.
That includes flight path delivery, that includes a biodiversity offset delivery, the noise amelioration package, and a number of other things that the Commonwealth has taken on with regulatory risk. The Commonwealth will continue to deliver.
So how much of that, so that's 449 is broader than aircraft,
Yes.
The noise amelioration. Can you tell us how much the noise amelioration proportion of that is?
It's $75 million as we've put aside in that $444.9 million.
Okay, thank you. And how is the future construction of a rail connection being taken into account with the development process?
Senator, we've allowed for a rail corridor or rail easement to the airport. However, the matter of providing the rail is an issue for the state government. Both the federal and the state governments are in consultation over this very issue. What I can say to you is that from day one that the airport will be rail ready.
Right, but you don't have an expectation that there will be a rail line there from
Again,
2026?
I await the conclusion of discussions between the Commonwealth and the state government.
That's a matter for us, for the department. Sorry, Senator, for the confusion there. There are, as Mr. Millett outlined, there are ongoing conversations between the Commonwealth and the New South Wales Government about Western Sydney rail needs, and there's a Western Sydney rail needs scoping study that's been undertaken. And we'd be in a position. Some of these matters come up in the context of the department's appearance later this evening, where I'll have the relevant officials to go into more detail. But those conversations are ongoing, or perhaps is the best way to put it.
Yeah, but the provision of a rail connection you would agree would impact upon the relative how attractive the airport is its patronage, that if you've got a good rail connection, it's going to improve.
The airport will have excellent public access. As you may be aware, Senator, the state government is spending significant funds on upgrading the road system. It's just been announced that the M12 will provide a direct connection between the airport and also the M7. So as long as we have that sort of access, then I think that the airport is not dependent upon rail for its economic sustainability.
And you don't see that the rail connection would vary the attractiveness of the airport, and hence its the rate of return and its financial success.
As I said, I think that the better the public access to the airport, then the more attractive it will be.
It's worth, just quickly on rail and road, and we spoke about this earlier in the city's conversation around with Infrastructure Australia. The airport is part of an overall development in Western Sydney that's being seen by the New South Wales, that the Commonwealth Government has been talking to New South Wales apart. So the provision of a rail connection for Western Sydney Airport, Senator, should be seen in that context as part of a broader rail, the broader rail needs for the emerging Western Sydney of Western City. As Mr Millett outlined, there is already substantial monies being invested, including $2.9 billion by the Commonwealth Government into improving the road system such that on day one there's motorway grade connection to the airport.
Okay, I've got to rush, so thank you very much.
I want to just follow on from there, Chair.